I had my last studio with Dale Malfinger, and he was such a great professor, and he got us, so many different opportunities, one being the surprise that's coming up, but also this one. We traveled down to Alabama, and we worked with a program called HERO program. And they're basically a community program, and they take care of the needs of the community. And the community that we went and visited needed houses, and architects' best place to be. And so seven of us went down to Alabama with him, and we came back and we grouped with another person in our class, and we had to design a house that was, certain square footage and certain number of baths and bedrooms. And what was unique about ours was that we had to do a passive design. And again, that's something I'm interested in, is the green design and sustainability. So it was really cool to kind of dig down deep into projects. And we had never done working drawings like this, where you could, give it to somebody and say, go construct it. We'd always done just, pretty pictures, and we didn't necessarily think about how it will be built. And so this was a new experience, and I think it was a perfect transition from student to a professional and coming into work and doing construction documents all the time. One of our main, I wouldn't say difficulties, but it was kind of stretched, and that was a wall section, just because we were in such a different climate than Alabama. We had to figure out what works down there, especially doing the sustainability and wanting it to be so tight. We had to research materials so closely and, think about the cost, because this is affordable housing. So it was a lot of, digging deep, and that gave us a really good experience. And then we did, the site and the wall sections and plans and even electrical and plumbing and things like that. So it was a really good experience, and I hope that they do go through with building it, and we hope to, someday go down and help them build it, because they do use volunteers to go down there and build their projects. So.
You took photography classes too? Okay.
I did. I was interested in photography always, and I got a professional camera before going to Europe. And when I came back, I decided to take a photography class and explore it further.
I recognize the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis, and a couple, actually more than one shot.
Yeah, so since this was a photography class, it wasn't necessarily architecture, but I always had architecture in the back of my mind, and how do I practice that? How do I utilize my professor who's so good at photography and thinking outside of the box, and have her maybe talk to me about architectural photography? And so, and then before this assignment, this is the final assignment in my photography class. Before this assignment, it was portrait photography, and I got really interested in that, and in that intimacy of portrait. And so when I started this project, I told my professor I really would like to do a combination of architectural photography and portraits. But I don't really know where I'm going with this, and I don't really know what I'm doing. And she said, kind of go explore it and see where you get. And since, being in architecture school and all the design ideas and things like that, we are always into exploring and new ideas and kind of grabbing from everywhere. So I went to Guthrie and I started photographing, and I noticed so many things that I would not have noticed without photographing the space. So I started noticing reflections a lot. You can see that theme kind of repeating. So I started photographing the space, and I saw so many things I wouldn't have seen, and reflections and people, and what is this space about? So let me tell you more about the idea that I ended up with. So, combining the architecture and the sort of portrait, I ended up with this selection where, architects start with the context of a building, and architects end with a detail. The finest details are in the hands of architects. And then, again, looking more towards the city and sort of that endless line, And then things like this, where there's reflection, there's signs to where the context is. And then you kind of go through, you see the design and more of, architects creating spaces that don't necessarily exist, but they end up becoming a reality. So a couple of them have, different bridges running into each other, but it's not real space, but it's a real photo. So that was really what was interesting to me. And then at the end, here I am, this building being about the people inside it. You know, I photographed a couple of people in the space, and then being about art, and I was dancing, and my mom ended up taking a picture, and so.
She did a good job.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, it's all about the colors and the architecture and the reflections and, you know, the whole experience of the space, even though we don't notice reflections, you know, as we're walking by something. Now that I have done this project, I notice the reflections more than ever. So again, this is me and my mom in a reflection, and we're kind of floating off of the city. You know, it's kind of a surreal thing, but the thing is, these haven't been photoshopped. You know, I haven't, you know, pasted my own image over this. This is how the space was. So that was, it's a reality, but it's not a reality at the same time. You know, this is the bridge, and then you see the hallway and how that's blending all together, you know.
Right.
It's not a real space, but it's a real picture because I haven't done any collage. So I'm looking through a glass that is blue, but there's a reflection on top of that from the windows behind, and you see two bridges on that. But beyond that, you see 35W, and then these bridges kind of continue each other.
Yeah, they merge into each other.
Yeah, so it's
That's the
creating a space.
Hennepin Bridge.
Right, continues 35.
Continues onto the 35W, which
Who knew this would be
in
possible?
2007, unfortunately, collapsed
Right.
and was rebuilt. Wow. And it's
Yeah, and
exactly
then-
on the same line too.
Right, and then there's Stone Arch Bridge, and then you see the balcony. So there's so many things layered into this picture, which is a reality in the picture, but who knew that this
Right.
picture could be created, you know?
Very
Until
nice.
you don't explore such things, you don't notice them really. So I loved, you know, exploring around Guthrie by John Newell. So that was an amazing project for me to really understand that it is possible to do portrait photography and architecture, because buildings are about the people and the experience.
Sure.
And then one project that we did again last semester, you know, being kind of focused on cabins and smaller scale houses. This was the Bunker F-150 project, and we presented this at the Lake Holman Cabin Show. And again, this is one of the opportunities Dale Malfinger introduced us to. And you know, we all had a bunker that had to be panelized in a garage or somewhere, and then you would take it down to the site and assemble it with two people. So kind of looking at how space could be converted again for seating and sleeping at the same time and hanging out. What do you want to do in a cabin or a bunker, and how does that work in such a small space that you have to panelize the system and kind of bring it up north or whatever your site is and assemble it on there with, you know, hopefully as little tools as possible.